What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the RBC Heritage. As maybe some of you have a little bit of a major championship hangover. Certainly we know some golfers do, as they've already told us. And Drew and I are going to break down who we think doesn't have any hangover, who we're going to play this week, and maybe just a couple of minutes on my experience going to the Masters. I won the lottery, the ticket lottery, or I should say my wife did. There's a little tidbit for you all. My wife started entering like 5 years ago, and hey, it paid off. So maybe have your wife enter or switch up. If your wife's been entering, switch to you. We try everything. And this time it won, Drew. And I got to tell you, it blew away my expectations, truthfully. And some people may think that it's like a once in a lifetime experience. And maybe for some it is. For me, it just made me want to go more. Truthfully, I want to go back. I want to go during a tournament day. You know, I got all the pictures I needed. Now I got to go back during a tournament day because the roars that I was hearing just on a practice day, I blew Valspar or the Arnold Palmer out of the water. I got to be honest.
Nice.
Yeah, honestly, the practice round might be the best because you can take in a camera. So, which you can't do during the tournament. So there's some pros and cons there for sure. But yeah, just going to see the course is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is crazy to me that you know, theoretically, you can't have any pictures from the day of the tournament unless you find a media person willing to take a picture of you, pretty much.
Yeah, it's still wild. I mean, they have they have not pay phones; they're just free phones, but they have phones around the property, which people may not. I'm sure you may have saw, may not have, but that's how it was for me. So like the only way you could get in contact with people, which wouldn't even be inside the gate. Like, how are you going to call another phone? But there are phones inside the property where you would call for a taxi or an Uber or something like that. So it's just weird, if you didn't park there. So
right. Yeah, exactly. I'll say this, as most people know that listen to this or follow me on Twitter, and you're maybe a little bit along the wavelength of me, but maybe not as fanatical as me as going to Disney World. And I equate this to the theme park of all theme parks for golf courses, right? So when you go into the bathroom, it's not like a porta potty like you get at the Valspar. Like, it's a really nice facility. The line moves. There's attendants like working at it, and each one there's a concession stand at like every 3 holes. That if you go to the right ones, you don't even realize how much property is on there on TV. That's one thing you told me. You can't believe how big this facility is in there. For me, it does. It feels like, Magic Kingdom. You're going in, everything's incredibly clean, and the food is incredibly good. And it is. It's a great overall experience. If you're a golf fan, again, I recommend putting the time into the lottery. You never know what'll happen. And for me, next time, definitely going to try and rent a house with a bunch of people and go to at least one tournament day. So I might be tagging you in for that experience, Drew.
Absolutely.
Because it is truly amazing. You have some similar thoughts and feelings when you went as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I think how big it is kind of under appreciated. Like, when you walk through the gates, you're walking into like the practice area and like the common area for their buildings and accounting and technical stuff, whatever it is. And then
all that. And you're like, what is this? Where is this on television?
And then you walk through the actual gates to the course, and it's just so like, it's just like a roller coaster. Like, as soon as you walk through the gates, like going down to 1 and 9, like just looking down, it's huge. So it's such a cool, everything's designed just perfectly. I mean, it really is. And I don't know. It's just like when we went, they had bad rain, so they were using the sub air, so it was kind of loud, and they were pumping water out. So that would probably be the only bad part of our experience and all the water sits out like on the walkways, which was kind of funny. Like, the fairways and greens are perfect, but where we walked as spectators, it was nasty, grimy, muddy.
You got it treads out.
Yeah. So that was the only bad part for us, but still the experience and seeing everything, it's really cool. And I think, I mean, like, seeing 18 was cool because you see that picture so much of people walking up, but like, there's so many other holes there that are amazing. And like the walk up to 9, like, it's such a huge climb, just so much of it. I think the one hole we didn't go out to see, or I walked backwards on, was 8, which I'd be interested. We saw the tee shot because you walk right past it to all the other holes.
Right past it. You walk. Yeah, but actually, the tee shot you maybe see the most.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, for sure. And
Yep.
it's pretty cool. But then like going back to 8 and then the 9 tee shot, I didn't see. I don't think so. But yeah, it's just a cool experience. And it's like you said, it's not like any other tournament on tour. I mean, everything's very formal. Everything is so organized. Like you go to any other tournament and they're trying to make it somewhat like a party. Like they want you to go there and have fun and drink and eat and all that stuff. And they want you to do that at the Masters, but there's so much more. That's why there's no phones. It's like you go there and you're just there to enjoy the course and watch some golfers. And that's really it.
You're in a golf bubble. Most of the people there are golf fanatics or getting into golf. It's a great atmosphere. It really is.
And what's funny is for most people, I mean, I don't know the numbers, so I'm just talking out of my ass, but I bet the majority of people that are there whenever you go are probably first timers that like they're having the same experience you are. Like I know a lot of people get tickets every year, especially if you're from that area. But I bet a lot of people that go there, and again, I don't know the numbers, but are going through the exact same thing. So it's kind of funny that everyone that goes to the Masters, I'll just ballpark it, 70% are like, this is amazing. This is our first time, and it's just jaw dropping.
Yeah, it really is. The pro shop bill for me was into the 4 figures.
Not hard to do.
I expect I was actually maybe slightly under the average. I'm not sure. It's very interesting, but it is unbelievable that a community, a city of Augusta is legitimately built around one event that happens for 7 days out of the year, and they're able to facilitate it. I mean, truthfully, I know it's not great on non-tournament weeks and whatnot, but that 1 week, it is the Super Bowl in that area, and it is truly incredible. And as far as the tournament goes, we got a pretty good one, all intents. It was kind of difficult, obviously, with the weather delays that came up, but we got the Live versus PGA Tour. The ratings took off because of that.
Yeah.
One reason, full swing coming in, obviously, is bringing more fans in, but up 20% year over year. And, that type of return, you can't get many places right now, Drew. So happy to see where this is going on the PGA Tour or for professional golf in general. I really wish that the Live Tour went about this so differently. If they had just kind of gone in and basically bought the DP World Tour and kind of just took what they were already doing on the DP World Tour and just put more money into it and maybe took some PGA Tour players, we could have like a Western Conference versus Eastern Conference kind of thing. But because they did it so spitefully, we won't get that. But we will get it at the 4 majors, and it was really cool to see. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I just think they have a different vision. I mean, I think they really are trying to push the team thing, whether that works or not. But I think because we know the owners are invested in soccer and in F1, that they really do think the model for franchises is the way to do it.
Yep.
So I don't think DP World Tour was probably ever even on their mind. Maybe as like a sponsor to get some feeder players, but it did make it a lot more fun.
Tour, I guess was my point is like, they didn't, if they were going that route, I wish they had just gone for the DP World Tour and
play the long game. Play the long game at least. Yeah. Take the DP World Tour and then say, hey, this year we're going to spice it up and create teams, and then everyone's going to draft their teams before the season and just make it fun.
Yeah, we've signed these 12 golfers from the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour, and they're going to draft their own golfers. Here's the pool of players that are in our market, and that way they probably automatically get OWGR points, and it's not spiteful against the PGA because it's not really messing with what they're doing, except for 10 golfers or what have you. Which again, we're seeing people get over if you've been relatively coy about it. It seems like people don't care about Brooks Koepka anymore. Harold Varner certainly. But there is still some hatred towards some of the guys that have maybe been more outspoken or have said the wrong things in their press conferences, like Mickelson or Reed. Certainly not a ton of support going that way still. Any thoughts there before we move on to the RBC? I know typically Drew and I jump right in, but because it was Masters last week and I had a couple things to say about going, we're taking a little longer, but don't worry.
So
right after.
Yeah, the only thoughts I got is I actually really enjoyed. I think the right winner won with Ron winning, and it's pretty amazing that he 4-putted the first green, and went on to win.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and not only went on to win, he still shot 7 under with a 4-putt on the first hole, which is insane. Hovland got off to a good start, so the leaderboard was great, and I do think I'm not a big Phil fan, never was. His social media got pretty good a couple years ago, so got to like him a little bit more, but never really liked Phil Mickelson. And then on Sunday, I was actually rooting for him to win. Like for all the people that hate Liv and talk bad on Liv, which I'm not siding one way or another.
Yep.
The fact that he would come in after being basically shunned from the golf media and then saying none of these guys can compete, and then Brooks had a chance. But for Phil to come back and almost win, like that would have been icing on the cake. It just would have imploded everybody, all the Golf Channel guys. It would have been mayhem, and I would have loved it.
Mayhem. It's Sunday got special for a little while. I'm not gonna lie, I love Sunday at Augusta. It's nothing like it. When Mickelson buried that putt after Spieth made bogey, it sank my heart a little bit, only because if Rahm rinses one on a couple of holes, I mean, it's in play to obviously post and win a number or post and get a playoff.
So. Well, he was only 10 under at the time, I think,
when he posted
8.
It was within.
We're just creating payments.
All right. Yeah, let's move on to the RBC now.
Yeah, let's do it.
It is a fabulous course to move on to. Obviously, a difficult time in the schedule. Kind of hope that maybe they throw in a Texas event after the Masters next year and then go back to RBC, because I'd love to see it keep the elevated status. It's a really great course, but clearly there's some fatigue out there. What do you see about the course that you like? I know I saw a tweet earlier this week where you saw some good stats. And what do you think the players' overall attitude is going to be? How much are you accounting in your lineup making?
Yeah, so I think that's really the question this week is which of the top guys? I mean, we've never seen a field this strong on this course, and this is not a normal PGA Tour course where all these guys, I mean, maybe just the strength of their games will carry them, like we saw last year with Spieth and Cantley and Cameron Young. But it's really difficult for me to feel like I just still feel like a winner could come from the mid-range. With how this course is set up, it's really weird. So I don't know if you want to talk about the course first, and we can talk about like some of the stuff I tweeted out for stats. But I think that opens up this course to be wide open, where the distance obviously doesn't matter. Approach game does, scrambling does, and it just makes it a little bit more volatile. So I mean, shout out to Spieth for winning it last year, but I struggle to see like the top 10 guys in pricing to all finish in the top 20. It just feels like it's more wide open because of the way the course is laid out. So I think we can start there with the golf course, because I think there's I have a unique perspective on how I'm trying to think through guys that have done well here in the past.
Yeah.
And how and why that kind of evens out the field just a bit. So obviously with I'll pull up the last few winners. So obviously Spieth winning last year. Prior to that, if you just think through like the profile of these, you got Stuart Sink, Webb Simpson, CT Pan, Satoshi Kodaira, Leslie Bryan, Brandon Grace, Jim Furyk, Matt Kuchar, Graham McDowell. So like in the last 10 years, it's basically just who can hit it straight, who hits their irons accurate.
Yeah.
Who can scramble and make some putts. So again, the fields have not been this strong during those years, but you can still see the profile fits across every single person there. CT Pan, Kodaira. I mean, Webb Simpson, Brandon Grace is longer compared to those players. Furyk's definitely not. Kuchar's definitely not. So it's interesting. So when I looked at the numbers, and we'll talk through the approaches, like the big thing I tweeted out, and I think you agree, is there's a lot of shots from 175 to 200, and just more broadly 150 to 200.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because the course is only 71-91, I think, is the yardage.
Number
but
one.
If you look, so like if you look at the actual course and how they play it, this driving accuracy number on this course is actually higher than the tour average. But the caveat is it's about 15 to 20 yards less driving distance wise than the tour average. So what does that tell me? It means that guys don't care about hitting driver. They're not going to need to hit drivers. They're going to prioritize hitting the fairway. And you can't. Yeah, exactly. But that's my point is looking at the driving accuracy number, people would probably say this is a tough driving course. And then they would pull up the driving accuracy number and say, well, it's easier to hit fairways. Yeah, but they're also hitting it 20 yards shorter. Sure. So they're hitting hybrids and 3-woods on par 5s off the tee.
So do you think – so here's the thing. We know that some of these quote-unquote, let's call them bombers, sure. When they have to tailor it down, sometimes it can help their game, especially if their iron play is on.
Right.
So Tim Young coming third here last year, right? And you and I think, agree that he probably, when he full throttles it, is one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 longest on tour.
Oh, yeah. He didn't have the full throttle, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't.
It's
untapped power potential.
Yeah.
Do you think that this week we'll see the best players get there that are in form? Like, I think Cam Young is in form right now. I think Cantlay, based on his iron play last week, is really close. Xander Schauffele is right there, and then if Morikawa, feels like having a good putting week, I think we could see all of those 4 guys in the top 15 or 20 this week. Given where they're playing. So I know that looking at past winners is really tough because we've never had this type of field, right? Even during COVID, it wasn't all of the guys. It was maybe 10 of them. Webb Simpson was good back then. Dan Berger was good back then.
Fleetwood would play.
Yeah. So you think the cream will rise to the top, or do you think we've got a chance at some maybe more of these plotters that hit a ton of fairways like Justin Suh, Aaron Rai? You think these guys can go out and compete this week?
I do. I think it just levels the playing field a bit because off the tee advantage goes down. Down. I think the skill level is there for the top guys, obviously. And to your point, yes, if Cameron Young doesn't hit a single driver on any day, he probably still has potentially shorter clubs in for his second shot than anyone else in the field.
Right. He's hit, 7-iron or 8-iron from 180, and Kenny McCarthy's still hitting the 6-iron.
Right, and someone else hit a 3-wood to get the 2-7, and he hit his driving iron or 2-iron.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, to me, it makes it wide open in that regard because there's not one fit here. Cameron Young could play well here, and you could get, I don't know who the shortest guy in the field would be. I mean, you could maybe say Simpson
Ches Reavie.
Ches Reavie. I mean, if Ches Reavie hits fairways, he's going to have the same approaches in. He's going to have a club more, in the bag than Cameron Young. But if he hits the fairway, hits the greens and scrambles, he's going to be in the same ballpark. So that's why I think honestly for me, I'm going to take out off the tee stuff as a whole and really focus on the approach numbers and just say, and green and regulation. So I'm going to use two ideas here. One is if they've been hitting a lot of greens and regulations, specifically weighted, then they're driving it well enough. Their irons are good enough. They're hitting more greens in the field. The second thing is, if I just focus on the irons, then I'm just going to assume that these players figure out a way to get it in the fairway and have their, 175, we'll call it, into all these greens. And then it's just a matter of me picking out the best iron players from there. And I do think scrambling matters. We saw the scrambling is like, Spieth for sure. But in general, because the greens are so small, I think the field average is around 60% and the top 10 is around 75%. So whether that's putting or scrambling, it goes either way. But I think people are going to look at off the tee and driving accuracy, which they need to do this week. But I don't think lead-in stats will show us that. So I'm going to really focus on approach, and weighted green and regulation is a way for me to weigh in that their off the tee has been good enough to still beat the field.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So you said 175 to 200 is probably our top.
Yeah.
Overall 150 to 200. Yes. So let me just ask a question, and this is part of our mixed model, our FGB model here, so that we can kind of sort through these type of things. So Matt Wallace, right? He's the number one guy in terms of strokes gained from 175 to 200, about 0.26. That's his number. First in the field. But then we go over to the weighted greens and regulation number, and it's -4% versus the fields he's played against. So how do you weight those two numbers? He's been great at a statistical average that we like this week, but about hitting greens, which might be more important than strokes gained specifically in that one category. How do you weight that this week? Obviously you got a guy like Nick Hardy who seems to be doing both very well. Maybe you go right to Hardy or individual case by case basis.
I mean, I'll weigh them together, and then obviously it's I'm just trying to put preference on certain stats. So like right now I have 30% for 150 to 175 and 175 to 200 collectively. It's 15% evenly split, and then 15% on greens and regulation. So yeah, Wallace is interesting. So it looks like he's had, and that could come down to sample size, but like to see you're gaining over 0.2 in one category is
pretty high.
It's really high. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. You're on average, you're gaining a decent amount.
Yeah, and that's not Spectrum data. That's just regular strokes gained. So usually, like with Spectrum, you'll see the numbers. Like if you just look through his approach numbers, they're back to just below. We'll just call it a 9K number average. He's right in that ballpark of JT, some JM. Hatton, Lowry, etc. So
which is above his statistical average. Let's be honest.
Exactly. So
years past,
yeah, you got to look at it as a bigger picture. Obviously, he's been hitting even 150 to 175 has been great. But yeah, the green and regulation number is concerning. I think it might be related to his driving accuracy number. So to me, he'd still be in the player pool because he's too cheap. But it's going to be a total package. I mean, that would be literally a case-by-case basis because 175 to 200 could be like he's hit 8 shots there in the last couple weeks. And some of those have not been shot link. We can't really look at shot link from like the match play.
Or Corrales.
Exactly. So
right.
Greens and regulation does still count for Corrales. So
yeah, the other thing about it too, Drew, is it's funny. We look at the driving accuracy number, right? And let's just take Wallace, for example. Yeah. If Wallace throws 150 yards off the fairway, and let's just say he's 190 from the primary rough, let's say he puts it to 28 feet, okay? Just off the green, though. Let's say it's fringe fairway, so it's not considered green in regulation. He's actually gaining quite a bit of strokes on the approach, given where he was in the distance-wise to the green. So
for sure, yeah.
It's kind of like sometimes bad off the tee can yield to an artificially good strokes gained on the approach number.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Again, just taking that one step further.
Well, I think
when we go to something like Gary Woodland, for example, who looks like driving distance good. He's hitting fairways more against the field he's playing against. His greens and regulation number looks pretty good and looks good from this range. Seems like an interesting play this week.
He does. One quick thing that I'll just kind of wrap a bow around, like the approach conversation, because you're spot on. Like he hits a bad tee shot and he hits it in a fairway bunker in the rough. He's going to get a different baseline than the fairway from that distance. And if he hits, a marginally better shot than, everyone else from the fairway, he's going to gain exponentially more strokes. I mean, it could be like he gained 0.05 from the fairway, but because it was from the rough, now he gained 0.12. Yep. I'm just throwing out numbers. So I really love. I think with this day and age of people getting down in the weeds with stats, which we do, and the Super Prox data. Yeah, we do. I think there's a lot of value still in looking at strokes gained tee to green because it incorporates that bad drive with the good approach and it nets it out. So like in theory, if you hit a really bad drive and you're weighing approach really high and he hits a good approach, now you're going to be like, yeah, his irons are great. Well, they might be because he's hit some bad drives and you go look at his off the tee number, it's negative. That's why. So I love looking at tee to green. I use it every single week because that is the best way for me to catch those outliers where if you just looked at approach, you'd be like, man, this guy, he must be holing out every shot. No, he hasn't hit a fairway in the last 2 months and he's still hitting greens because he's one of the better players in the world. And that's why you're going to be misled a bit. So just wanted to point that out. I think tee to green is really honestly one of the best stats and we break it down now. But it really gives you a nice picture of where their game is at. So to your point on Woodland, I mean, it's got to be a perfect fit for Woodland when you consider, in the history of his game, he's played well on courses like Pebble Beach. I don't think he's played great at Valspar. Exactly, but he does so well. He does so well laying it back into certain distances. Yep,
sure does. So let's go over a couple of names. First, maybe on specifically. I'll just cover this right off the top. Then we can get into more DFS specific plays. I have 2 bets this week. That's it, just 2. On a normal week, I'm here throwing at you plenty of top 20s, 40s, parlays. I've talked about that. I love it. I have fun with it. Now that the state of Massachusetts has opened the door to everybody, it's allowed people like me who have a lot of friends there to be able to contribute to the betting ecosystem, if you will, because we can't here in Florida quite yet. But nonetheless, I have Cam Young to win at 22-1. I really think it's time. Comparatively to Jordan Spieth, who's played like 7 or 8 events since the start of the season, Cam Young has really only played in the elevated events. He hasn't played in any else, so he shouldn't be as fatigued as maybe, say, somebody like Spieth, who's played quite a bit outside of the elevated events. And came in 3rd here last year. Throw on the top that his caddy has already had a winner here before. Clearly, his caddy knows the course well enough to help Webb Simpson win. And we know, right, that Webb really relied on Tesori for a lot of stuff. So I think the stars are aligning. And the second one is the automatic bet here. It's hit 4 out of the last 5 years. It's Patrick Cantlay to top 10. I got a plus 170 number on it, and I'll take it because I think it's going to happen again. So, okay. Looks like
no, I'm here. What who got to Sorry? Who got to Sorry?
Kim Young.
Okay. Well, that was early in the year, right?
No, it happened like 2 weeks ago at the match play. Yeah.
Okay.
Not 2 weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Remember there was a caddy change. I just couldn't remember who got him. So yeah. I mean, again, that's why I think it's really tough to profile this course outside of just looking at into the greens and scrambling. I mean, Cameron Young, Jordan Spieth, Shane Lowry, Matt Kuchar, all those guys finished in the top 3 last year. Not one of them is the same player. So yeah, I think I would go back. I mean, Cameron Young's been playing so well. I wouldn't steer clear of that. I think the funny one though is Corey Connors coming back to another course with great course history like Augusta. Yeah. And he's the same price essentially as he was last week.
Yeah, I think
I'd have to go back to the well.
9 holes. I mean, he rinsed 2 on 13, which ended this week, and he knew it. So I think I'm going to throw out, basically 13 to 18. But he birdied so many people last week. You got to think ownership's going to be a little bit lower, right?
You would think, but people are sharp enough now. They're not as quick to just jump off. I don't know. I don't know what I have to check what we have them at, but here I have it up right now. So we have them at Corey Connors 15%. So it's pretty spread out in this range between Corey Connors down to Ricky Fowler. I think all of them will get 10 to 15%, closer to 15. So he's not going to be chalk like he was last week. I mean, he was 40% in some contests, 50% in some contests. So
yep.
I just really like that opportunity to go right back. If I got rinsed on him last week, I'll go right back to him this week. It's just one of those. I feel like that's the type of player that would win this event. If he threw his name up there, he's still 1 week removed from winning. Yeah, he's not like he's in bad form. You said, he had one bad 9, which can happen around Augusta.
Sure can. I got a couple of interesting names I want to talk about before maybe I get some of your favorites. This is for DFS side, really specifically, because like I said, I'm only making 2 bets, and those are the 2 bets for me this week. First name is Chris Kirk. When are we going to stop getting a return on this guy? I mean, literally every week he gets it done. Last week, let's see. I think maybe I don't know that he got inside the top 20, but he had a ton of birdies, threw in an eagle. I mean, he just keeps getting it done. 7,500 this week. Is it going to happen again, or is the train going to stop?
Yeah, it's mixed course history a bit. He had a good one 2 years ago, T7 miscut last year in 2019. So
back, yeah.
I mean, he is playing better. He had one blip a couple weeks ago. I forget what event that was. I have it pulled up. Where was he? He had Players Championship. Yeah, so he had the Great Florida Swing, and then I think it was the Players Championship miscut, T10 at Valero, T23 last week. So yeah, I think you keep going back to the well with Chris Kirk, and at 7,500, he's obviously a pretty good value. But this whole 7K range is pretty loaded. But yeah, he's got a lot of narratives going for him, right? I mean, this is straight and accurate as it gets.
Yeah, he's going up against Ricky Fowler, who's playing great. Before I get your take on Fowler, let me ask you about young kid. The model here rates him at a 74%, which is top 15. Akshay Bhatia, the guy is here to stay. We know that he gets himself into trouble off the tee. Maybe doesn't do that this week if he takes that 4-iron out on every hole. 6,800. Do you go back to the well here?
Yeah. I would take a shot on him at that price. It's kind of where it makes a lot of sense with the way the pricing is up top. So you want to take some of these guys that are coming in with good form. And again, some of his events don't have any shot link. So we're kind of going blind and kind of basing it off of his recent form with a mix of what we do have, like at Valspar. So I do like Bhatia down there. He's one of my favorites. But there's even down here is good. I mean, you go back to Davis Riley as another one. So I guess the real question is down here is how much course history are you weighing on this type of event because it does seem like guys play well here year after year. We've seen a lot of repeat winners. I think Furyk's won here twice.
Yep. I mean,
He's won here like 3 times.
The cut, right? I mean, I don't know that he's won twice, but certainly Kuchar's been up there quite a bit. Now, I think that's going to determine, who and how many you play of golfers down at this price of the Bhatia range. Is how many stars you're going to play. Are you going to go right back to Jon Rahm after he had arguably the biggest win of his career? I'd rather see him on Jimmy Fallon than here at the RBC this week. Truthfully, that's why I said maybe they should go to Texas next year, then come back to the RBC. Like it's, we're still in the same geographical region. It's not really that big of a deal.
Well, they're going to change this from an elevated event, I think, next year. So from what I've heard, they rotated.
Yeah.
So they're not going to come back here for another couple of years, I assume. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like, but from what I understand is they're going to try to rotate it. So they're trying to fit it in.
I guess, that begs the question is, are you going to go to Scotty Scheffler, who arguably looked the most irritated on a golf course we've seen him since he turned pro? Clearly he thinks his game is in great shape. And if you look at the tee to green numbers, by all stretch, it really is. He had the worst putting week he could have ever imagined. Spieth said he's fatigued. Can't lay favorite course. Morikawa said one of his favorite courses. So are you going to play, all of these guys at a decent clip? You going to fade any? Because, again, I think that's going to determine how many we play down below.
Yeah, I think Spieth I'm going to be out on. I'll just take his word for it that he is.
Take his word for it that he's not going to beat these other guys this week. Basically. Yeah,
it sucks because he's going to be so low owned. It's like one of the great leverage spots, but I could really see him checking out. Like if you're already I feel like he's pretty straightforward with his comments. And if he's already saying like, hey, I should have taken a break and I need a break, this is probably going to be a half-in effort. So yeah, I think you have to fade Rahm. And honestly, I think Scheffler's price is so inhibitive of good lineup construction with the good field. I'll probably be out on Scheffler as well. So if I started with anybody, it'd probably be Morikawa right at 10K, and then try to build, a few guys between 8 and 9K, and then try to balance out the bottom. I think this is still like major pricing, and balance builds tend to do very, very well.
Yeah, totally agree. Sorry there. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. You forgot I had pressed mute there for a second. I'm sitting here talking like.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough guys to cut in the 9K and 8K that I can take a stand against, but I do like almost everyone in the 9K and low 10s for a chance to win, which you'll need. But I think those top 3 guys are really just off limits. One, because of pricing. I mean, and Rahm coming off the win.
Yeah.
And then Spieth. So I'll just go down low and try to build a little bit more balanced. And like I said, in the 7Ks, it's loaded. You don't even have to go down to Bhatia. You can just literally litter the 7Ks, 8Ks, and 9s.
That's why I wanted to bring that exact thing up. We've seen Spieth play the most outside of elevated events of anybody this year. No, you can see why he'd be fatigued. It has been a lot of golf. Do I think he could still make the cut? I don't think he's going to win this week because I think that he's kind of already suggested that he doesn't feel good enough to do so.
I'll just bring this up because I really enjoyed this. So Wesley Bryan has a YouTube channel, him and his brother, and he did Inside the Ropes the last couple of years at this course. Yep. And I think his opening round was like 71. But if you watch that round, every single hole is like you're clinching because you're hitting it into trees.
You're in the native area.
Yeah. So I think honestly, this course can be exhausting. And Spieth is playing great, and he could just be one of those guys that gets it around and doesn't even try and gets it around. But it could be if he starts hitting it a little bit behind the 8 ball, he could just get mentally out.
Let's take a couple of guys on the other side of the fatigue. Maybe, they hadn't played that much coming into the Masters and performed pretty well. That could be a good fit here this week. We're talking up top. 3 names that I definitely am mixing in and love in the balanced build category. Xander Schauffele. Not as much Max Homa as Xander, but then I go down to Tom Kim. I think this is a great course for Tom Kim. I think I saw a decent amount last week. Hasn't been playing his best recently. And then I'll go down to the 8K. I'm going to ride the Thagala train for quite a long time. Not gonna lie to you. The dude is just electric. I think that with his shot making ability, he's got a lot of speed in him. That chip kind of just solidified it for me. At 8K or around 8K, I'm going to play this guy, and that'll be again here this week.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. Again, I think it gets wide open, and it's really just approach numbers. And as long as these guys are checking boxes, I'm going to trust that they'll find a way to get, have their best chance to hit the fairway. So no issue with the Gall. I think Hoagie's really interesting at 7,400. Continues to play pretty well. I don't know if you want to talk through a specific range here, but Woodland off of last week has got to be one of the more popular plays. Wyndham Clark, we've been playing a lot of.
Playing with Brooks, though, the first couple of days, and they're literally the same player when they're playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, they're the same person to me when they're playing well. I'm not going to lie. I'm not surprised that Brooks, gave him the 5-iron number. That was a thing. That was not, you guys literally did that. Lie about it or not, I don't care. John Rahm won, so it doesn't bother me. If Brooks had won by 2, and I have a different take right now, probably, not going to lie. Yeah. But if Gary's in form at 7,500, just like Brooks of last week at 7,800, you got to play him.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. I could just – some of the ones that really stand out as rougher plays, Sam Burns, I'm not going to at 8,700. I struggle with that.
Me too.
Yep. Fleetwood has some mixed course history, but I don't think he's as sharp as we remember him to be.
We'd rather play Lowry if we're doing that.
Oh, yeah. Give me Lowry. I think Lowry's going to be a core play for sure. Tom Kim, like you said, Sung JM, love that spot around here for him.
Yep.
And then Max Homa was way too cheap as well.
For how he's been playing this year, I agree. He just, again, let us down in a major last week. He even let himself down. He came out. He's the first to call himself out on Twitter. Adam Scott's putter is broken again. I'm not playing him. I just, as we go down the list here. But how about Minwoo Lee? He let us down big last week. Maybe not you, but let me down. Yeah. Are you going back to him, or would you rather play Hoagie, who also missed the cut?
Yeah, I think both are fine. Okay.
Keith Mitchell came in last. I suspect this is not a great course for him, even though he lives, maybe 20 minutes away by boat.
Yeah, I haven't made up my mind on Mitchell. Again, off the tee, it's just not a course that would set up well for him. So it really boils down to how his irons are.
And it's not great right now looking across the board on our model.
And I would say, if I had to be really picky, and I think this makes sense with any sport as pricing goes down, but as I go down, I'll be less strict on their proximities for those specific buckets and just look at their green regulation numbers for the cheap guys. So the guys that stand out really quick are Luke List is cheap, Nate Lashley is cheap.
Yep.
And when you look at green regulation, again, they've played some weaker fields. Aaron Rye, 7K. He's going to be a core play.
Yep.
So those are. I would kind of view it in different buckets for those cheap guys. Give me the broader scope for green regulation. We use weighted green regulation for fantasy golf bag. So look at that for the cheaper guys. And then as you go up, you can be a little bit more strict on, in my opinion, at least for the pricing, is saying hey, Tony Finau's irons have not been as good from this range as Cameron Young or Xander Schauffele, for example. So I start to view it a little bit differently based on the pricing too.
Yep, I'm with you there. Okay, so I think that'll wrap up our pod here for this week. We're a little over our time, like I said, normally because, again, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience at the Masters. So thank you all for listening in and letting me do that. As we do, we close out every pod with who we think is going to win the event. I kind of gave mine away. I believe it is Cam Young's time. Every sign is pointing in that right direction. He even made himself a part of the mix last week. So I think he carries that momentum. I think he gets it done here, 22-1. That's where I'm putting my eggs. Drew, how about you?
Oh, man, I'll probably go down to Lowry at 30-1. I just love his style around this golf course. He's done well here in the past.
Last year, right? Chipped it into the water on 15 or something like that, 14, something like that.
Yeah, he's had a really good run. He's got 2 T3s in his last 4 years and a 9th 2 years ago. So I think if you figure out a way to play this golf course, you can come back here year after year, assuming your game's in decent form. And I like where Lowry's game is at, and he's obviously figured out a game plan for this place.
Yeah, me too. Zurich Classic next week. Got some great Rainmaker content on that. Check it out at luckytrader.com. I've got a couple of things going on over there. If you guys didn't see my announcement, I've joined that team. Really excited. Going to be building out some first-in-class, amazing tools to help with that game, help get everybody in. It's a ton of fun, so check it out. And Drew, you'll be on the show tonight over at Run Pierre. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. Yep, 9 p.m. We'll do our their premium show with Big T and JSU to kind of give our final thoughts on the field and our approach. They go through every single tier, so if you're really trying to build out a pool, that's a good spot to listen.
Yeah, sure is. Well, tune in then. Good luck this week, everybody. We'll see you next week for the team event Zurich. Until then, cheers.